Hey, guess what? Definitely 4 here. Guess what I found just a few minutes ago? Well, actually, I'd say a few seconds ago. I found the Pokemon Creepypasta I was just telling you about that was based off of Glitchy Red. Also known as Forgotten Data by Kyokolu. Yes, I thought this one was really good, and I even have a picture that I believe it was Jack Nor drew. Yeah. So I have that picture, and I'm going to read this creepypasta to you because I thought this one was excellent. From the POV of Fire, aka, as the fans call him, Red's replica. I'm thinking Tales of the Abyss. Sorry, people. Anyway, let's start. The first Pokemon game I'd ever played but didn't own was Pokemon Yellow. It was my first experience with the game, but I already watched the show. Obsessed over the cards, and collected every piece of Pokemon merchandise I could get my hands on. The other day, when I felt like reliving that old first time rush, I trashed my room and found Pokemon Leaf Green version. It looked a bit weird, a bit darker than I remembered it being, but maybe I was just imagining things. Having not played the remake game for about 2 years, I didn't remember all that much about it, other than the main player characters. Ready for that old wave of nostalgia, ready to see blue and red, I pushed the game cartridge into my red Game Boy Advance SP and clicked the power switch on. The game started with the usual title movie, ending at the screen with Venusaur and the command to press start. Smiling, already amidst the old memories made anew. I pressed the start button. After hesitating, hit new game, saying a silent goodbye to the Pokemon on my old file. The game started out with the button's description menu and the help menu. How I despised that! A feature only available in Leaf Green. I assumed Fire Red versions. Clicking through it, I read about the world I was about to enter, and so on. I pressed A button one last time. Professor Oak came on screen. However, instead of saying his usual "Hello there, glad to meet you," followed by explanation of what Pokemon are and what their world is like, this time it was different. Oak's posture changed the moment the light came on around him. His face almost looked like it was frowning. "Who are you?" it said. Not fully remembering if he said this or not, I shrugged it off and pressed the A button. The following script flashed up in the text box. "You're not red." My blood went cold. "Who are you?" the game asked again. I twitched, scared to press the A button. However, my curiosity got the better of me and I pressed it anyways. The next script scrolled through the dialogue box. "Choose your name." That seemed normal enough. Then, "Don't you dare say your name is Red. That would be a lie." Feeling a tad creeped out, I entered my name as Daniel, like I usually do in games. My hands shook and it took a few typos before I got it right. As the game moved forward, I realized that it never gave me the option to choose whether I was a boy or girl. Shrugging this off, I watched as the screen cut to the part where Oak asked you where his grandson's name is. However, being a lovable professor, being his ditzy self, and saying I forgot his own grandson's name, he just said, "Oh, you're Daniel. Thank you for not lying. Lying would be bad. Being a fake is bad." The randomly capitalized words were beginning to freak me out. Oak turned and walked away, his form fading into the screen, graying into the pixels. The scene cut to black, then returned, this time with blue. Instead of standing in his usual cocky stance, he was turned slightly sideways, his face angled away from the front view. His hands were in his pockets, and he looked like he was slouching. He looked lost. "You're not red," he said, repeating his grandfather's words. "You're the brown-haired kid." Another shiver went through my body, and the goosebumps rose in my arms as the option yes or no and no came up on the screen. This is definitely not how I remember the game from 2 years ago. I may have forgotten a lot of things, but I think I would have remembered the game had talked to me and said I wasn't red. Frowning but intrigued now, I pressed A on the no. More script from Blue. "I am Blue. Don't name me something else, because you would be wrong." I clicked A again, all he said were ellipses, much like his original counterpart in the games. And then, like his grandfather before him, he turned the fade to the gray pixels making up the background. The screen faded to black again. Creeped out now, I flicked the power switch. The screen went dark, and I sat there, my breathing shallow and my heart racing. I closed my eyes and counted to 100. Opening them, I let out a sigh. I had imagined it. That was all. The only explanation. I've been staying up too late these past nights, crashing at about 4 a.m. I was probably just overtired. I watched the screen load, and the only option was continue the game. I have a bad feeling in my guts. I pressed it. The screen loaded black, and as I watched the horror, I could just see Groom's blue shape still disappearing. As he faded completely, my own character came up to the screen. I couldn't be certain, but his face looked different, sadder, almost bleak, or lost. Like normal, the full-size player character shrank into his normal sprite. You played a game of only, this time, there was no text box saying your very own journey is about to take place. Just the sprite standing in his room, looking at his NES. Still frowning, I decided to keep playing. When I clicked on the NES, instead of saying Daniel played with the NES, it said it looks like no one has played in a very long time. Like when you go to Red's house in Kanto after being the Elite Four and gold, silver, crystal, heart, gold, soul, silver. Same with the PC. Nothing would work for me. Just said no one had touched them in a long time. I knew this was not the way the game was the first time I played it. I guided the player's sprite across the room, down the stairs. The game seemed to be moving extremely slow. The gameplay shuddering and sluggish. For a moment, I had a terrible thought that Daniel was dragging his feet, that he didn't want to go downstairs and start his adventure. I shook this off, telling myself I was being an idiot. It was just a game after all, just data in a plastic cartridge, nothing more. Finally, I dragged my sprite down the stairs and into the main room. I walked past the TV over to the mother's side. Instead of saying the usual bit about the TV saying all boys left home someday, the text box said, "Mom, you are not my son." Her sprite didn't turn to face mine like they usually do when you talk to someone in the game. It remained forwards. Like, when that was all she said, I clicked her again, still not turning. It said, "Mom, where's my son? Why won't he come home? Why won't he come back to me?" At this point, I was way past blaming the new gameplay on the fact that maybe my game cards had been damaged from being lost under my dresser or something. Disturbed, I kept playing. I needed to see how this played out. I sent my character out of his house into Pallet Town. I wandered around towards the grass, knowing that Oak would walk when Red Owl stopped me from going into the grass. No one came out of town to stop me. I stopped walking the shore of the grass, not wanting to testify what happened to one out without a Pokemon. Confused, I turned my character around and walked toward the lab. Instead of finding Blue and having to tell him it was just me and Oak was there, I found them both. Oak's usual aides wasn't there. It was just the two of them, the 3 Pokeballs on the table. I took Charmander, like I usually do. I needed Spike. Then my sprite turned to blue by itself. I tried to move, but nothing happened when I pressed the D-pad. Frowning, I mashed the buttons. To no avail, a dialogue box finally popped out. It said, "I won't fight you. You're not Red. I don't know who you are." There was not a period of not being able to move, and nothing happening. It slowly dawned on me that my character and Blue were having something like a stare down. Finally, Blue's sprite turned and walked over to the table. One of the Pokeballs disappeared, and he walked out of the lab. Able to move again, I walked my sprite over to Professor Oak and clicked A. He did not wish me luck. He did not tell me to take care of my Pokemon. All he said was ellipsis. Without me pressing any buttons, my character sprite turned and walked out of the lab like Blue had, of his own accord. He stopped outside the door, paused, wandered left, right, back, and then right again. It looked like he was wandering around, lost. When I tried to make him move myself, nothing happened. I angrily mashed the buttons again. The help feature refused to come up. When I pressed A, however, a dialogue box finally popped up, saying, "Daniel is sad." I froze. Never had encountered a point where the game actually addressed the character directly, other than in the form of another person figuring out who your character was. Frowning, I found that I still couldn't make the player sprite move. He had stopped wandering and just stood there, looking something forlorn. I pressed A again, and another text box sprang up. Daniel, who am I? I don't know who I am. A strange feeling of sorrow came over me, along with fear. It may have just been a few blocks of data in a pixelated world, held in a battered game cartridge. But I always felt like I had a real bond with my Pokemon and character, especially having completed the Nuzlocke challenge on this very game. I wish that I could just give my poor player a hug or something, and tell him that it would all be okay, that he and I would become the champion together again. I touched my fingertips to the screen, and more words popped up. Startled, I jerked my hand back and read them. It was strangely long for Pokemon dialogue. What's the point? It's all been done before me. All of it. All of it. Why should I do it again? I'm just a copy. A copy of him. I can't ever live up to him. I don't want to. I took everything from him. I'm just a brown-haired kid. I'm just a copycat. Why? Why did they make me? Shocked, I stared at the last text box faded from the screen. Nervous now, I hesitated and pressed A again. My player sprite spoke up one more time. I'm just recycled for him. I'm a copy of a copy. I have to walk in his footsteps. I have no choice. I'm a prisoner in his life. Before I could react, the text box cut off and the screen turned black. It stayed black for a few minutes and my heart almost stopped. Stories of eternal binaries finally kicking the black bucket of broken glitch games filled my head, and I panicked, flicking the power switch off and on a few times. Nothing happened. The backlight stayed lit inside my SP screen. After a few more minutes, something changed. The black lightened slightly, turning more gray, and my player spun slowly into view, much like when you use an escape rope. The black screen slowly lightened even more, until it was almost white. There was a flash, and my character sprite was standing in the snow. With a jolt, I recognized as the place of Heart Gold Soul Silver where you meet Red on Mount Silver. After a moment of hesitation, I moved my character sprite forwards, along the ledge. As he moved forward, another sprite came into view. It looked very similar to mine, but a few things were different, like the hat and minor details in the clothing. Once the new sprite was in full view, my character stopped moving. No matter what I did, he wouldn't move. It was like being back at Pallet Town again. When I was outside of the lab, with dread, I watched a dialogue box pop up. I had kind of expected this, but I had not expected it to be empty. Finally it faded, and the sprite I figured to be the real lens slowly revolved around to face mine. The little dots that formed the eyes on its sprite, usually black, were red on this one. His hair was most definitely black, whereas my sprite was brown. The game seemed frozen, nothing happening. Still unable to move my character. At last, another dialogue box popped up. You're red. To my order, unlike the rest of the words, which were the usual black, the word red was the same exact color it spelled out. The dialogue box border also changed to a dark red, like the blue I'd set it to be. Without me having to press the A button, the text script carried on by itself. I don't know who I am, or why I'm here. A text bubble, like the ones in Heart Gold Soul Silver that come up when you talk to your Pokemon, appeared above the red sprite's head. Instead of a heart or question mark, it was filled with ongoing ellipses. They went on for as wide as the bubble was. There was only about 8 dots, but it still sent goosebumps up my arms. It seemed to be implying that Red's silence stretched off forever, which I guess it did, since he never spoke beyond ... in the original games. I can only assume that he had been programmed without any dialogue. The ... bubbles disappeared, and another dialogue box appeared, scrolling through its own again. Daniel, no, I did not come to take your place. I don't know why I'm here. They created me. No, I'm not lying. More silence, and the ellipsis bubbles from red. My character spoke again, and I realized that somehow the two were conversing within a game. Uneasy, I placed my SP on the desk, and sitting down in my computer chair, I watched the conversation unfold all on its own. I'm a copy of you, sort of. I'm different. Dots, dots, dots. That dialogue box appeared again. I jumped. It was the first time that I communicated about the ellipsis bubbles. Looking closer, I could have sworn that the red pixels making up his sprite were brighter, their color deeper. The red eyes seemed to flare and grow. It is like a cruel joke. Yes, I don't know either. I'm a victim too. Dot, dot, dots. Dot, 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 dot. No, I am. I swear, I didn't come to take your fame. I didn't come here to replace you. I swear. I don't understand it either. They did this. They did. Not me. Dot, 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 dot. They did this. I nearly fell out of my chair when the words appeared in Red's dialogue box. I thought he couldn't speak. My eyes wide. I carefully picked my SP back up, waiting for it to explode or something. Nothing happened, and I looked back at the screen. There was silence again, the two sprites having a stare down akin to the one between my character and Blue in the lab. A few minutes later, my text box appeared. Daniel. Dots. I had to keep pressing A as the text kept scrolling, the ellipses going on and on, the text no longer running on its own. I finally reached the end of the dead sentence. There was only one word. Yes. Red was definitely brighter now. His color was so vivid. It looked to be bleeding into the red pixels making up the snowy background. I looked at Daniel. He looked faded. He was no longer red. He was almost pink. Looking at Red again, I saw that several red squares around him were turning red. Little red pixel boxes. Segments still like a triangle beneath his sprite. More text boxes appear. The script was running by itself, only much faster this time. My eyes raced to keep up with the words flying rapidly across the screen. No, wait. Stop. It's not my fault. Stop, please. I can't. No. Control. He was fading as he spoke, the pink merging into a dirty orange color. All the while, red grew brighter and brighter, burning into a disturbing bloody color. And the sudden idea that red was draining my character's sprite of his ability to speak, of his life, if that's what he had in this digital world. They did this to us. They created you. They did this to me. You did this to me. You are they. You must be deleted. Daniel's sprite was going gray now. I had tears in my eyes, and I couldn't stop the shivers rolling through my body. Every hair on my arms and legs and on the back of my neck were standing straight up. My scalp felt tingly and strange. I was terrified, yet I felt so sorry for the two characters inside the screen. They were trapped in this digital world, forced to live the same plot over and over and over. Sure, you would set your old game to start a new one, but who knew if the game ever really forgot the previous save files, or if they just piled on and on, decaying stories and forgotten lies. The snow around Red was turning bright pink, and had spread further around his sprite. Don't. Please. The text scrolled by so slowly, I almost thought the game was going to freeze right there. However, when Red spoke again, the text flashed by so fast, I almost didn't catch it. You are a copy of me, and I am you, and you are me, and you are no one. As I watched, a weird sort of ripple distorted my player's sprite form, and it turned dark gray, then black, then white. He faded to the snow. I couldn't be sure if he was there, or if he just blended in the background, became part of the date making up the scenery. I smashed the buttons and nothing happened. Just nothing. The screen moved, roaming and forward until Red was dead center. The snow around him was deep, dark, deep red. The entire cliff was bathed in the color of blood. Red's eyes finally turned black when they were supposed to be. They seemed to melt down his face, dripping into the blood-colored snow. black spots and all the red. One last text box appeared, and it was all red. Dark red words on a faded red background. The border dripped like candle wax. Eternal battery has run dry. Save file corrupted. Gameplay has ceased. The screen began to fade to black until the only thing left was red and some of the polluted snow around his feet. There was a pause, and I was certain that the game had really frozen now. The screen suddenly flashed white, and the cliff red was standing on seemed to disintegrate, and pixels exploding, stretching and distorting. Everything went completely black, the power of black light shutting off completely. I stared at my SP and shuddered. I turned away, disturbed, and stood up. As I moved away from the desk, a sudden screeching sound issued forth from my SP speakers, and I screamed, grabbing it and forcefully shutting off the speakers. It didn't do anything. The screech went on. I felt like my head was splitting in two. No SP speaker should be able to make a sound that loud. I lifted my arm to throw the SP against the wall, just wanting the terrible sound to stop, when it cut off mid-note. I looked at the Game Boy in my hand. It was red, dangerous bright. This time all black, flashed into the screen, then off, then back. There was a sickening, low dumping sound issuing from the speakers. It sounded like a heartbeat. Daniel posted to view 3 more times, then froze on the screen. His tape twisted, skewered, and morphed into red. We faded from black to a slightly darker red in the background. A final dialogue box appeared. They cannot replace me. Then the screen went entirely white, and large black letters scrolled across the blank background. Game file deleted, and the screen went black. Wow. I read this again, and I remember how twisted and demented, but good the story was. This is the first time they actually ever put a POV of Fire, as I just call him, instead of Red's replica, like everyone else calls him. Red's replica, Ash, ... They call him a lot of things. I just prefer, like the few others, to call him, Fire. Because Fire sounds a lot better, like how they call the other girl, who's technically supposed to be Blue, Leaf. Like I said, I prefer to call him Fire, but this made a big impact on me, seeing as how, one, I was actually getting ready to delete my game so that I can go back to delete my game of Heart Gold so I can play through as Gold, aka Ethan, but so I'm not sure. I may, but I may not. But this made some pretty big impact on me. The story was really well written, and unlike going into all of that blood and gore that everybody tends to do, they had a build up, and it actually showed what was happening, and it was visual, which made it even more creepy. Cause I like visual and psychological creepypasta style. Maybe because of the fact that I try to use psychologic fear against people more than physical fear or physical imagery. So anyway, I had to say this was really good. And that's all I like to say now. Well, this is Defantarashi 4, signing out.